Hey guys, tonight we slip into sandals made of mist and walk back, way back, to a time when the world didn't just lack internet or iced coffee. It didn't even have warmth. The air bites at your skin. The trees, though ancient, look raw and unfinished. There are no chimneys, no candles, not even a matchstick. And in the middle of it all is you, or rather Hestia, wandering through a frozen whisper of existence, looking for something that hasn't been invented yet. You don't know what it is, only that your bones ache for it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're settling in, post your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The ground crunches beneath your bare feet, not with snow, but with ash. There's a fine layer of it, blown from distant volcanic tantrums and the smoldering aftermath of titans doing titan things. You're not cold exactly. Not yet, but you feel the void of warmth like an itch in your soul. A cosmic draft sneaking under existence's doors. You're Hestia, young unnoticed, an infuriatingly mortal feeling despite your Olympian pedigree. You're one of the 12 gods, sure, but you get the sense that if this whole pantheon gig had a group chat, you'd be muted. Permanently. Your siblings? They're disasters in motion. Zeus is off doing his thunder god influence a bit. Poseidon can't stop throwing aquatic tantrums, and Hera's already plotting divine vengeance about something or other. But you wander. You watch. You feel. And lately you feel cold. Not physically. You're a goddess, after all, but spiritually cold, unanchored. Everyone's obsessed with power, war, lightning bolts. But you keep imagining something else. A center, a place, a warmth that isn't just heat, but belonging. You don't know it yet, but you're craving a hearth. The early humans haven't even mastered the art of grunting rhythmically yet, let alone fire. The sun rises and sets, a blazing ball too far to touch. The stars twinkle uselessly above, no help at all. And the earth is still wobbling through creation like a toddler in oversized shoes. But you kneel, often, and you listen. You place your hands on stones still warm from sunlit afternoons. You collect bark, dry grass, and the cracked shells of thunder eggs, obsidian slick with memory. You're building a nest for something that doesn't yet exist. And that's when you meet the wind. No, not some poetic breeze. This one has attitude, a misbehaving minor spirit with a grudge against everything. It whips your face, scatters your gathered twigs, and howls at your ears like it's mocking your effort, still trying to warm the bones of a world not ready for it. The wind seems to hiss. You roll your eyes, still stuck whispering insults while hiding behind trees. Sassy, even back then. You got patience, but also curiosity. And so one day, you follow a trail of scorched ground blackened by what must have been a lightning strike, and find a miracle. A tree, split from top to root, is smoldering. Little red veins pulse in the cracks. Smoke drifts upward like a lazy ghost. You reach out, carefully. The air warps. The bark hisses. And for the first time, you feel it. Heat. Not the blistering wrath of Helios or the molten fury of Hephaestus, but something contained. Something alive. You whisper to it. No one teaches you this. But you speak gently, in the secret language of things not yet born. Stay, you murmur. Be still. Be more. It almost listens. Almost. Then a wind gust comes crashing through. That wind. And your fragile discovery scatters into soot and disappointment. The embers die. The cold slithers back in. You sit there for hours. Maybe days. Sulking. But also thinking. Humans will eventually think this is Prometheus thing, right? Stealing fire from the gods. Huh, cute. But while he's off getting eternally liver punched by an eagle, you're the one trying to nurture it. To raise fire like a wild thing that could be tamed. Historians still argue whether the earliest fireplaces were accidental lightning remnants, volcanic pools, or divine gifts whispered into caves. But here's your version. It began with loneliness. You try again. And again. You practice with flints, which you invented by smashing rocks until they behave. Glass shards of focused sunbeams. Even your breath, heated by prayer. You chant. You sing. You hum lullabies to sparks. One night, crouched in the hollow of a cave with walls scorched by something ancient, you almost succeed. You've arranged a pile of dry tinder, so delicately it looks like a sculpture. You strike 2 stones, and for half a heartbeat, a spark lands, nestles, and flickers, then dies. You scream, loudly. You may be the goddess of hearth and home, but you have your moments. You chuck a rock at the cave wall, and to your utter surprise, it rebounds and knocks over your own torch setup. And wouldn't you know it, a tiny flame leaps up, wobbly, confused, but real. You freeze. You don't breathe. You inch toward it like someone sneaking up on a shy animal. The fire dances, hungry but unsure. You feed it a twist of bark. It accepts. You offer a broken reed. It crackles, delighted. And that's when it hits you. This isn't just warmth. It's company. It's a presence. Something that wants to be kept. Not commanded, like Zeus' storms, or feared, like Poseidon's tides, but invited. You sit beside it for hours, talking, dreaming. The fire seems to listen. It casts moving shadows on a wall that almost look like stories. Your stories. A little bat squeaks from the ceiling. You offer a name, Toast. It declines. But the point is, you've done it. You created the first hearth, even if it's only the size of a cat's yawn. And as the embers glow red and the smoke rises in lazy curls, you understand something huge. This isn't just your warmth. It's for everyone. Someday, this glow will anchor homes, shape cities, forge steel, bake bread, whisper through the walls of every cozy winter cabin, and every late-night campfire ghost story. But for now, it's just you, and the fire, and a sense that maybe, just maybe, you aren't as forgotten as you thought. Somewhere, deep in Olympus, a faint heat reaches a certain thunder god's palace. Zeus pauses mid-sulk. Do you smell toast? He does not get an answer. So now you've got a flame. A real one. It sputters a bit. Sometimes it pouts and refuses to catch on wet sticks. Other times it flares up so fast you fall backward in surprise and singe your eyebrow. But it's yours. A living warmth in a world that's been running on cold starlight and divine tantrums. You're still in that cave, by the way. The one with the scorch marks and questionable bat guano that smells like, well, don't breathe too hard. You've spent days refining your technique. Stacking with just so, learning how to coax embers into little golden tongues, figuring out which leaves produce warmth and which just produce smoke that smells like a sweaty satyr sock drawer. You're getting good. You're getting obsessed. You don't just want to keep fire alive now. You want to understand it. Because here's the thing. Fire isn't just heat. It dances. It sings. It whispers in colors. Historians still argue whether early humans stumbled upon fire through accidents or rituals. But let's be honest. You are deep into the ritual zone now. You're drawing symbols in ash. Humming weird tunes into the logs. You've invented, entirely by accident, something that closely resembles a windscreen, and might also qualify as a first oven. But here's the issue. You're a goddess, and other gods are nosy. Word spreads. Not like wildfire yet, that phrase comes later, but more like a grapevine tangled in divine ego. Hermes catches wind, literally, while eavesdropping through a breeze. Then Apollo stops by pretending to check on you, but mostly to see if the fire rumors are true. He brings a liar, tries to flirt. You throw a pine cone at his head. And then comes the worst. Hephaestus, god of fire and forge, master of anvils and grudges. He stomps into your humble, smoky little cave one afternoon like a furnace on legs. His beard is singed. His eyes? Narrow, suspicious. So, he grumbles, you play with my toys now. You raise an eyebrow. Your toys don't usually warm hearts. They melt faces. He pauses, snorts, tries not to smile, fails. You're not enemies. Not yet. But he's intrigued and a little insulted that you've made a fire that doesn't destroy things, but keeps things safe. And that's when you realize no one has ever thought of fire as soft, or comforting, or centered. Not even Hephaestus, who's been wielding it like a sledgehammer for eons. You're building something new. Something no god, no mortal, no titan has ever even considered. A home. But building something this revolutionary? Oh, it comes with chaos. You got a working flame now, sure, but where do you put it? The cave is too isolated, too far from humans. And let's be honest, bat poop isn't exactly a crowd pleaser. So you head out, across the wild earth, where mortals are barely upright and gods are always meddling. You carry your ember, cradled in a stone bowl, nestled in moss, protected like a newborn. You travel under starlight, over frostbitten ridges, past rivers that haven't yet agreed on which way they're supposed to flow. And then at the foot of a crumbling hill, you find them, the humans, huddled in groups, shivering, eating raw roots and sometimes bark, speaking in clumsy syllables. They eye you warily, sensing your not quite mortal vibe. One child points at the ember in your bowl and says something like, "Oh bah." A translation, roughly, "Hot rock glows?" You smile. You kneel. And for the first time, you share the flame. You build a small fire in the center of their gathering place. A circle of stone surrounded by woven huts and wishful thinking. The flame flickers to life. The people gasp. The cold flees. And that night, they stay awake. Not from fear, but from awe. From the simple magic of not freezing to death. You sit beside them, quiet, watching the way they reach toward the warmth. Not to steal it, but to feel it. A mother pulls her baby closer. An elder grunts approval. Someone tosses a beetle onto fire and sniffs the air with curiosity. Congratulations, you've just invented roasting. The next day, they ask, without really asking, for more. More fire, more warmth, more understanding of how to do what you do. And you teach them, patiently, repeating motions, showing them how to find dry wood, how to keep the embers alive overnight, how to breathe with the flame, not against it. One man gets ambitious and shoves his hand directly into the fire. He learns, quickly, but that night, something different happens. They build a structure, just a little one, mud and straw and stone, around the fire, to protect it. And just like that, you're not sitting next to fire anymore. You're sitting beside a hearth, a center, a beginning. Quirky tidbit time. Early hearths weren't always inside homes. Some were built at the edge of villages to symbolize protection from the unknown. Others were in the exact center, believed to align with the gods. You help nudge this trend along by dramatically staring into the flames and saying cryptic things like, "The warmth will choose its heart." Super effective. 10 out of 10 divine theater. But your flame success draws attention. Again, one evening, as you're teaching a teenage mortal how not to sneeze directly into kindling, a shadow falls over the village. A tall, golden one. Zeus. He's here, with that signature smirk, the kind that says, "I'm the CEO of the sky, and also probably about to make things worse." He looks around, nods once, then crouches beside the fire. "I didn't know you were in the invention business, Hestia." You shrug. Someone had to do it without turning into a lightning show. He watches the flames, quiet for once, and then very softly, "It feels good." You don't answer. You don't have to, but later, as the humans sleep peacefully under a sky full of stars and soft smoke, he pulls you aside, offers you something rare from a god like him. Respect. He says the fire is yours, that the hearth, whatever it becomes, belongs to you. He'll make sure of it. Of course, he's not doing this out of pure brotherly love. Zeus can smell influence from a mile away. He sees how the humans worship the flame, how they start leaving offerings, bread, meat, even shiny pebbles by the hearth. He sees the beginning of a religion, and that, my friend, is power. But you're not interested in thrones or temples. You just want people to feel safe, to have a place to return to, a flickering orange promise that says, "You're not alone." And somewhere in the night, as the embers glow low and the wind sighs through the trees, you realize you've invented more than fire. You invented the idea of coming home. You wake up to the sound of purring. Except it's not a cat. It's fire. The hearth you helped build in the center of the village is no longer just a pit surrounded by hopeful stones. It's been rebuilt, reinforced, and decorated. Someone, probably that guy who's way too into stacking rocks, has added little carvings of animals around the base. A girl hung feathers above it, which is deeply unsafe but undeniably charming. A few of the elders now sit beside it every morning, quietly sipping whatever passes for tea this century. And in that soft orange light, for the first time since you sparked this journey, you feel something settle, like the world, just for a moment, knows what it's doing. The flame is alive. The hearth is born, not just as a heat source, but as a symbol, a presence, a place. It becomes the first thing humans gather around when the sun goes down, and the last thing they tend before sleep. Children are told to never let it die. Ashes are seen as protective. Stories get shorter because no one wants to leave the fireside for too long. Not when the shadows outside feel a little too hungry. One family even starts calling it the mouth of light. Poetic, a little dramatic, but sweet. And then it spreads. You move from village to village, always with your ember cradled like a sacred pet. You teach. You share. You kneel beside curious humans who haven't yet figured out that fire isn't a threat. It's a promise. Some try to make it competitive. My flame is hotter than your flame. You gently remind them that this is not a barbecue contest. In one marshy region, a local chief insists on building a hearth above everyone else's huts, claiming it gives better flame visibility. It also gives better smoke inhalation. He learns, eventually, but everywhere you go, fire becomes centered, not just physically, in the middle of homes, villages, temples, but emotionally, socially, culturally. And the other gods, they start noticing. Hera is the first to react. She's had a reputation to protect as goddess of marriage and family. So the idea that you, little Hestia, are becoming the symbolic heart of every household does not sit well. You're stepping on my domain. She snaps during a surprise Olympus brunch. Home is my thing. You sip your ambrosia calmly. You do weddings. I do warmth. Different vibes. Apollo laughs, then immediately regrets it when Hera throws a honeyed fig at his forehead. Athena is more curious. She visits you in disguise, classic owl and cloak look, and watches how humans tend their fires. She says nothing for a long while, then murmurs, "You didn't just invent a tool. You made a ritual." And that's when it hits you. This isn't just about making people warm or fed or safe. This is about meaning. The fire isn't just flickering sticks and flame anymore. It's where oaths are made, where offerings are left, where names are whispered to the gods. To you, historians still argue whether Hestia had formal temples or whether every home was her temple. But you know the truth. Both. Every hearth becomes sacred. Every bowl of soup stirred over fire becomes a tiny prayer. Every circle of seated bodies around the glow becomes a kind of church without walls. Even when no one's praying, especially then, you don't demand worship. You don't thunder or punish. You just remain, a quiet presence. A warmth people don't notice until it's gone. But the gods are twitchy. Some are nervous about your influence. You're not flashy like Zeus or terrifying like Hades. But you're in every home, every meal, every hush between conversations. And that kind of power, it's invisible, but real, which brings us to Poseidon. You never really liked him. Something about the sea god always felt damp and emotionally needy. And now, he's circling your growing reputation like a shark sensing heat in the water. "I should marry you," he declares one afternoon, sloshing into your cave like an overly confident fish. You blink. Absolutely not. He frowns. Think about it. Fire and water. Opposites attract. They also cancel each other out. He sputters. You point to the hearth. This flame isn't meant to rule. It's meant to stay. To be steady. Not drown in your emotional tide pool of drama. He tries again. Brings you coral. You get it to a passing duck. When Apollo proposes next, it's less soggy but equally off-putting. "Imagine it," he says, gesturing wildly with a flaming lyre. The sun and the hearth. Warmth squared. "No thanks. I like solitude." "So you're rejecting the god of music?" I'm rejecting noise. You stay single, not out of stubbornness, but because your devotion lies elsewhere, to the flame, to the ever-growing circle of lives it touches. Because while the gods squabble over thrones and thunders, you're teaching mortals how to build homes. And with homes come walls, roofs, rooms, and at the center of every one, a hearth. You begin noticing something beautiful. In every place the fire takes root, humans become more human. They stop roaming as much. They cook together. They talk more. They make plans, laugh, cry. They invent something wild and unprecedented. Furniture. Now it's not great furniture. We're talking uneven stools, vaguely dangerous beds, and one guy who insists on a rock throne that constantly falls over. But still, it's a start. You visit a mountainside clan one night and find them arguing over whether the hearth should face the rising sun or the village square. You smile. It doesn't matter. The hearth is already doing its job. It's holding them together. Quirky fact incoming. Some early homes designed their entire layout around the fireplace. Before walls, before roofs, before anything else, they picked the hearth spot. Then everything else grew outward like spokes on a wheel. You probably encouraged that. You probably also said something dramatic like, "Let the fire decide where you sleep," then disappeared into smoke. Classic. You stop by Olympus less and less now, not because you're exiled, but because you found your purpose. Up there, everything's power plays and gold goblets and winged sandals. Down here, there's mud and awkward hugs and kids who give you pine cones like they're priceless gems. You cherish everyone. Eventually, humans start building altars beside their hearths. Simple things, just raised stones or clay mounds. They whisper your name. They leave bits of food. They make weird little chants that sound nothing like your name, but are meant with love. Sometimes, when no one's looking, you whisper back. And on one unforgettable evening, in a bustling riverside village, a woman goes into labor too early. The midwife panics. There's screaming, chaos, and then someone has the idea, move her closer to the hearth. They do, and slowly, steadily, the heat calms her breathing. The firelight eases the fear. And into that glow, the baby is born, tiny, loud, furious. You crouch nearby, unnoticed. You reach toward the fire, and for the briefest moment, the flame flares gold, then blue, then settles. That child grows up to be the first midwife in history, and she names her daughter Hestia. You don't cry. Gods don't cry. Except you do, just a little. By now, your fire has crawled into every crevice of civilization. The world looks different, still wild, still dangerous, but now there are pockets of light. Glowing homes nestle between trees, stone huts ringed with fire pits, towns pulsing like constellations stitched to the dirt. You don't run from place to place anymore. You walk, calmly, because wherever you go, your warmth is already there. People know your name now. Not everyone, and not always correctly. Some call you Hestia, others Hestia, and one particularly loud fisherman just yells, "Hot lady spirit." Charming, but regardless of pronunciation, the respect is real. And yet, as your name climbs into the mouths of mortals, it begins stirring something much less warm-blooded, Olympian jealousy. You feel it first from the edges, a prayer redirected, a shrine mysteriously repurposed, a thunderclap that seems a bit too close to a peaceful village fire. You know the signs. And then it happens. Zeus calls a council, which, if you've been to Olympus before, you know is basically code for group ego contest in togas. The 12 seats are full, Zeus in the center, looking mildly bored, Hera already judging, Ares flexing for no one, Athena polishing her helmet like it owes her money, and you slide into your spot, quietly, like always, until Poseidon stands up. You brace yourself. Hestia's fire, he begins, is too powerful to go unchecked. You blink. It's literally a campfire. He scowls. A campfire worshipped by half the world. He paces, drops words like centralized influence and unregulated devotion, like he's trying to pitch a hostile takeover. Which, to be fair, he kind of is. Then Apollo joins in. Of course. She's redefining divine presence, he says, flicking his golden curls. I mean, we've got temples, lightning, war, but she's in their breakfast, their stories, their homes. You're in their colds, you mutter. What was that? Nothing. And finally, Hera raises her goblet, decorated with pomegranates and smugness. The hearth was once symbolic. Now it's sacred. And I, for one, would like to know who voted on that. No one did. Not even you. But the fire spread like good gossip. Natural, fast, unstoppable. It doesn't need permission. Still, they push, suggest limitations, boundaries, redistribution of spiritual presence, which is just a fancy way of saying, please stop being so beloved. Then Zeus speaks. And that's when things get weird. I propose, he says slowly, we give Hestia a seat to Dionysus. Q gasps. Somewhere, a satyr faints from the drama. Dionysus, the god of wine, parties chaos? He's not even fully sober most of the time. You once caught him trying to toast marshmallows on a thunderbolt. You say nothing, but the fire behind your eyes simmers. Let him have my seat, you say. Everyone turns. Hera's jaw drops. Ares lets out a confused grunt. Even Dionysus spills his wine. I don't need a throne to be felt. You continue. My place is in the flame, in the walls, in the quiet. Zeus nods. So you step down, you smile, I step inward. And with that, you leave Olympus. No lightning, no tears, just soft ash on your robe and a small ember glowing under your sleeve. That decision, it becomes one of your most legendary acts. Historians still debate whether you were pressured out or if you voluntarily gave up your throne for peace. They don't get it. You didn't give anything up. You just refocused. While the gods bickered over altars, you were building something more permanent. A presence that didn't need to be seen to be honored. And back on Earth? Oh! The hearths keep growing. In Greece, people start lighting their city fires from a central flame. Colonists traveling to new lands bring a bit of their home fire with them, tucked in covered pots like spiritual passports. If the flame dies, it's a bad omen. People panic. Reignite it from the original source. You're literally traveling by embers now. Your influence rides in every spark. One village even claims their fire cries when you're nearby. Turns out someone just dropped an onion in it. Still, touching. More traditions grow. The first meal cooked on a new hearth is offered to you. Firewood is stacked with care, as a kind of unspoken ritual. Girls whisper secrets to the flames, hoping you'll carry them to the gods. And somewhere in a busy port city, a young woman invents the concept of fireplace tools, just to keep the ashes tidy. You bless her with an unnatural ability to never get burned. She later becomes the first firekeeper to serve in a city hall. Fun tidbit: ancient Rome eventually had priestesses, the famous Vestal Virgins, whose only job was to keep your sacred fire burning. If it went out, legal consequences, public shame, possibly being buried alive. Dramatic much? Yes, but they meant well. You never asked for that level of drama, but you do visit them often. Quietly, a flicker in their oil lamps, a warmth that steadies their hands during rituals. You never reveal yourself, but they sense you, especially the youngest ones. They leave you little tokens, dried flowers, bits of honey. Once, a single copper coin with your name carved into it, spelled backward but still sweet. You keep it, always. Meanwhile, other gods start getting nervous. You're not shouting, yet everyone listens. You're not commanding armies, yet people gather wherever you go. You're not crowned, but in every home, there you are, right in the center where the soup boils, the secrets spill, and the laughter lingers after dark. That kind of power, it can't be stolen. It can't be bought. It has to be earned. One flame at a time. You visit a coastal town where storms hit hard. Their hearths are covered in salt-crusted clay. During one visit, the fire dances sideways from wind. A girl cups her hands to protect it, not knowing you're standing behind her, doing the same. That night, her family lights a new tradition. Fire circles, where each member adds a stick, a shell, or a word. Their stories become firewood, and your name weaves into each one. You become invisible infrastructure, the part of life people forget to thank, but can't live without, like bread, or blankets, or that one friend who always knows where your favorite mug is. The gods might have their temples, their thunder, their chaos. But you have the flame, and it never goes out. You'd think, after creating something that changed how humans eat, sleep, and exist, you might rest. But no, you're not done yet, because now that the hearth has found its home in homes, it starts doing something you didn't expect. It begins to shape civilization. You're sitting in a modest hut one evening, mud walls, woven mat, crackling fire. A woman kneels beside you, shaping dough with slow, deliberate hands. Her children chase each other around the room, giggling, while her husband sits nearby whittling wood. It's cozy, simple, and then she says, "We should make space for others." You look up. Others. She nods toward the hearth. The fire's big enough. And just like that, you witness the first communal meal. She invites her neighbors. They arrive, hesitant at first, then ravenous. Everyone gathers around the same flame. They eat, share stories, trade tools. One man gives another a woven basket in exchange for smoked fish. Another teaches a child how to sharpen a stick. And you realize you didn't just invent a fire. You invented a social engine. Because fire doesn't just warm bodies. It pulls people closer. It changes the shape of villages. They shift from scatter clusters to rings. Circles of homes around a central hearth. Then those circles grow, and someone invents the word plaza. And then someone else decides you can't have a plaza without a bakery, which naturally needs fire. And suddenly there's a market. And where there's a market, there are rules. Someone insists that no fire should burn past moonrise. Another wants to assign firewood quotas. A third just wants people to stop throwing onion skins into flame because it smells like feet. A council forms. Disagreements spark. You smirk because now they're creating laws. And it all started with fire that made people want to stay. Historians often point out that once humans learned to control fire, they stopped being nomadic, that it led to agriculture, domestication, written records. But they forget that before all that, fire created place, and place created culture. You journey north, where it's cold enough to freeze your eyelashes. If you weren't divine, that is. Up there, the fires are sunken into deep pits lined with stone. People sit close, wrapped in fur. One woman paints on a cave wall. Charcoal and ochre mixed with spit and ambition. She draws figures, animals, hands, but always a circle, always a fire. She calls it spirit light. You smile, because that light is you. In warmer climates, fires get elevated, raised on clay platforms, open to the wind. One community builds chimneys, so the smoke doesn't choke them every morning. Another invents smoke signals entirely by accident after trying to make tea during a sandstorm. And everywhere you go, the architecture begins to adapt to the hearth. Walls angle in, roofs slope to draw smoke. Ventilation gets invented. Decorative mantles appear. One man even builds a fireplace shaped like a dragon's mouth, which scares his goat daily but is undeniably cool. And slowly, steadily, rooms begin to form. Not just for sleeping, but for gathering, cooking, telling stories, hiding from rain, laughing, mourning, falling in love, living. The hearth becomes a heart of home, and the home becomes the heart of the city. And every flicker of flame whispers, "Stay." Of course, with growth comes complexity. Not all changes feel warm. In one city, a rich merchant builds a home with 3 hearths. One for the family, one for guests, one just for display. You visit. It's overkill. The fires burn, but they feel empty, like he's showing off warmth without offering it. Then you spot a servant girl, quietly tending the smallest fire. She adds herbs to the ash, offers a crumb of bread, and just like that, your presence returns. Because fire, like love, doesn't care about the number of logs. It cares about intent. That's why you start whispering to keepers. Not kings, not warriors, but those who tend the flame with care. The old man who stirs a stew with patience. The boy who shields the fire during storms. The grandmother who hums lullabies to embers. These people become your silent choir. And soon, rituals evolve. Some light the fire at dawn with a specific kind of wood. Others recite family names before each meal. In one culture, the first spark of every month must be struck from a virgin stone never used before. It's impractical, but charming. Quirky tidbit alert. In some early Slavic traditions, people believed fire could talk. Not metaphorically. They claimed it whispered advice. One family swore their hearth told them when to harvest. Another said it warned of bad omens by spitting smoke. Did you actually whisper to them? Maybe. You never confirm or deny. Meanwhile, the ritual of passing flame begins. When a child grows old enough to start their own home, a coal from their family hearth is placed in a clay pot and carried to the new house, a symbolic ember. A reminder, you are never truly starting from scratch. That tradition, it lasts for centuries. You once watched a wedding where the couple didn't exchange rings. They exchanged embers. Better than jewelry, in your opinion. Much harder to lose down a drain. And then, the cities get bigger. Fires aren't just in homes now. They're in bathhouses, bakeries, blacksmiths. People build ovens the size of chariots. Temples with braziers that burn day and night. One city lights its roads with oil flames encased in stone lanterns. And still, they trace it all back to you. Some priests try to formalize things. Make your worship official. They write hymns, build altars, declare sacred rules like no burnt onions in the temple flame, and do not sneeze into the offering bowl. You approve one of those, but you never demand worship. You don't need processions or statues. Just a little space, a little attention, a little reverence in the everyday, a hearth swept clean, a meal stirred with love, a light left burning when someone's late coming home. That's your real temple. And every time someone does those things without fanfare, without expecting divine reward, you glow a little brighter. There's a night in a windy mountain town when a mother stands alone. Her child is sick. Her fire is low. She weeps into the ash. You arrive, not with trumpets, but with heat. The flame flares. Just for a moment. Enough to make her blink and whisper, "Thank you." She doesn't know who she's thanking. But you do, because even gods need reminders sometimes. You didn't invent fire to be feared. You invented it to be held. And the world, at last, is learning how to hold you back. The world is glowing now, not just from your flame, but from everything it inspired. Lamplight along winding alleys, flickering forges in early workshops, lanterns swaying from fishing boats out at sea. At night, earth twinkles with soft embers, like a mirror to the stars above. But here's the thing no one ever warns you about being creator. What you make gets borrowed, and eventually claimed. You see it first in temples. New gods, old gods, rebranded gods, all of them wanting a piece of your invention. They build their sanctuaries with fire bowls at the entrance, flame-lined walkways, sacred braziers fed with rare woods. They call it ceremony. You call it familiar. They don't always name you. Some pretend the fire was always theirs. Others rewrite stories entirely. Your gift becomes a weapon, a punishment, a divine accident blamed on someone else. And of course, there's Prometheus. Historians still argue whether the fire he stole was your original flame or something entirely separate. He's got the tragedy, the drama, the liver-eating eagle. You've got none of that. No chains, no cliffside misery. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing you were there first. You actually bump into him once, after his rescue. He limps through a market square where a fire pit roars at the center. Children toss bread crust to it, laughing. An old woman hums while stirring stew. Someone whispers Hestia's warmth. Like a thank you, Prometheus watches. Then he turns to you, shrugs. You made it beautiful. You smile. You made it dramatic. He grins. Respect. no rivalry. But still, his name becomes a headline. Yours? The fine print. You don't correct it. You've never been about credit. And honestly, you're busy watching something far more interesting unfold. Because fire is starting to change what humans believe. Not just about gods, about themselves. In one mountain village, you witness the first creation myth whispered by firelight. A child says, "The world was born from a glowing coal that floated in darkness." Her grandfather nods solemnly, like this is ancient truth passed down, when really, the girl just saw you drop an ember into snow the night before. Elsewhere, a family refuses to let the fire go out while burying a loved one. They say it holds the soul, that the warmth must guide them back to the sky. You're moved, deeply, because even if it's not exactly what you intended, it's sacred. The flame is no longer just a tool. It's a metaphor, a symbol, a bridge between life and something beyond. One scholar declares the hearth the navel of the universe. Another calls it the axis of order. Both are wildly philosophical and also extremely wrong about how chimneys work. But you appreciate the enthusiasm. Quirky tidbit? In certain early Roman homes, the hearth wasn't just a place to cook. It was a shrine to household spirits. They called them Lauras and Penates, and they believed those tiny spirits lived in the flame and protected the family. Basically, you had roommates. Tiny, invisible ones. Adorable. Meanwhile, cities grow, and with them, so do institutions. Public hearths are established. Great fire pits in the center town squares. Keepers are chosen, trained, given roles of honor. In some places, only women are allowed to tend the sacred flames. In others, it's seen as a job passed from mother to daughter. You visit one of these public hearths, tall, ceremonial, surrounded by stone seats, and find a young girl asleep beside it, soot smudged on her cheek. You tuck her blanket tighter. She'll grow up to write a prayer to you, the first one recorded in ink. It'll be scratched into a clay tablet that survives more centuries than most empires. The prayer? Let the warmth remain. Let the flame not falter. Let Hestia be near. You keep that one close. But the more the cities grow, the more your fire faces something it's never met before. Distance. People are farther apart. Homes are bigger. Markets louder. Streets wider. The hearth still burns, but sometimes it gets lost in the noise. You start seeing homes with multiple fires, each tucked away in separate rooms. One for cooking, one for warmth, one for show. Families begin splitting not in conflict, but in attention. The center is no longer clear. One boy complains that the fire in his room isn't as warm as the one in the kitchen. You check. It's not, because no one talks around this one. No one laughs. No one sings. It's fire without story, without soul. So you begin adapting. You find new ways to remain central. One town begins lighting all its ovens from a single flame at the start of each festival. Another develops a custom. Before eating, everyone must pass their dish through a ring of fire smoke. Not to cook it, but to bless it. You help that trend catch on. Soft influence. That's your thing. And then something unexpected happens. You're walking through a town of brick and iron, marveling at how humans have figured out chimneys, and also how to clog them, when you see something curious. A man sitting by a fireplace, alone. He's not cooking, not praying, not even warming himself. He's just watching. The fire crackles. Sparks float. His eyes reflect a flickering orange glow. And every now and then he sighs. You crouch beside him. He's not speaking aloud, but you can hear the thoughts swirling. He's remembering someone. A voice. A laugh. A moment. And in that firelight, you see it. The hearth has become a mirror, not of faces, of feelings, of memories. The fire isn't just a presence now. It's a place to process, to sit, to think, to let the warmth hold what the heart can't yet say. You knew fire would feed, knew it would gather people, shape homes, but you never expected it to be the first therapist. Still, it makes sense. You're not the goddess of drama, or spectacle, or noise. You're the one who stays behind, who keeps the light on, who waits for people to come back, because they always do. even the wanderers, the warriors, the ones who swear they'll never settle down. They all come back to the fire. And when they do, they find you waiting, quietly and visibly, right there in the glow. One evening, in a town carved into cliffs, a soldier returned from war. He hasn't spoken in days. His mother sits him beside the hearth. No words, just soup. Steam curls into the air. The fire pops. He cries. You warm the tears as they fall. No grand miracles. No lightning bolts. Just heat. Presence. You. And as his mother cups his face, the soldier whispers, "It still smells like her bread in here." And you haven't just invented the hearth. You've invented homecoming. Time drifts on, and with it, the world begins to tilt towards something new. Innovation. At first, it's subtle. A more efficient clay oven. A fireplace design that funnels smoke upward instead of sideways into everyone's face finally. Iron tools. Better fuel choices. Well, that burns hotter, longer, cleaner. You're intrigued. But then humans get ambitious. They invent chimneys. Then stoves. Then furnaces that can heat entire buildings. Fires no longer have to be watched constantly. You don't need someone kneeling beside the hearth every morning coaxing embers to life with smoke in their eyes. It's progress, but also a little heartbreaking. Because fire is slowly becoming background, you walk into a new stone house and find the hearth behind a grate. Closed off, decorative. It's clean, precise, but cold in a way that heat alone can't fix. You flick your fingers. The flame dances higher, hoping someone will notice. They don't. And that's when the real shift begins. Technology, fire, your sacred, stubborn little miracle, gets pulled into systems and structures. Kills evolve into blast furnaces, hearths into engines. Flame becomes industry. It smelts metal, powers workshops, drives spinning wheels. Cities grow loud, smokestacks rise, and the glow of fire moves from homes to factories. You wander through a growing industrial town and see it clearly. Fire as labor, not comfort, not center, just a means to an end. And even though you know it's inevitable, even though some part of you whispers that this is what evolution looks like, it still stings. Because now you visit homes with no hearths at all. They're warm, yes, efficient, but the warmth comes from pipes, systems, machines, not from a flame that flickers and listens. Still, you don't vanish. Not yet, because even as the visible hearth fades, the idea of it remains. The kitchen is still the most visited room. The table still stands near where the warmth used to be. People still gather, still light candles at dinner, still whisper memories beside flickering birthday flames and glowing lanterns. You adapt, again. You show up in gas stovetops, in scented candles, in the glow of holiday fireplaces. Even the virtual ones playing from glowing screens on rainy nights. A quirky note. There's now a television channel that runs a loop of a fireplace crackling for hours. No dialogue, no plot, just a fire. You're oddly proud. But you also feel yourself becoming distant, so you search for pockets of closeness. Stillness, reverence. You find one in a mountain village where electricity hasn't quite reached. A child carefully places pine needles into a morning fire, whispering a thank you. No one told her to. She just felt it. You wrap her in a little warmth, the kind that lingers in bones. And you think, this is enough. Because even when the world changes, some people don't forget what the fire really means. Still, the gods notice you're fading. Not all of them gloat. Athena visits one afternoon. She brings scrolls and tea. You started something that outgrew the temples. She says, you raise an eyebrow. Should I be flattered? She smiles. No, you should be remembered. And that's when she suggested a way to preserve you, not just as a name, but as a concept. She talks to the Romans, give them ideas. They reimagine you, rename you. Vesta, your cult is reborn in white robes and solemn vows. The Vestal virgins rise, a new order of priestesses whose only job is to tend the sacred fire in the heart of Rome. And this time, you get a temple, a real one, Marble columns, eternal flame, state funding. It's not quite the kitchen hearth. It's cleaner, grander, a bit obsessed with ceremony. But it's still you. The fire is never allowed to go out. If it does, they say Rome will fall. No pressure. You visit often, unseen, whisper through the smoke. Steady the hands of young priestesses as they light torches or stir the sacred ashes. One of them, Livia, writes a poem about you that she hides under her robes. Lady of the flame, who warms without burning, who listens without judging, who stays when all others leave. Keep my secret safe in the coals. You never forget that one. But even this golden age doesn't last. Rome begins to crumble. Politics grow messy. Fires are doused not by accident, but by order. The temple closes. The virgins are dismissed. The last sacred hearth is snuffed out with ceremony and silence. And for the first time in centuries, your flame is officially gone. You feel it in your chest. Not like pain, more like an exhale, because you knew this day would come. Even gods grow quiet. But then, something strange happens. A child, somewhere, lights a candle during a storm. Her family gathers around. They wait, talk, share bread. Elsewhere, a man stares into flames of a winter bonfire and thinks of his parents. A couple lights a fireplace on their anniversary. Says nothing, just sits close. You realize you're not gone. You just spread. You are no longer a deity sitting beside a single flame. You are the idea of warmth itself, of presence, of memory, of belonging. You're there when someone lights a lantern for a loved one, when a campfire sparks laughter in the woods, when the smell of baking bread brings a tear to someone's eye because it reminds them of home. They might not say your name anymore, but they still feel you. And in a tiny cottage, deep in the woods, an old woman places a stone bowl beside her fire. Inside, a glowing coal, always tended, always loved. She calls it her hearth heart. And sometimes she swears she sees a woman in the smoke, smiling. So here we are. The world is lit not by flickering flames alone, but by glowing grids and blinking diodes. Heat clicks on with thermostats. Meals spin in microwaves. People tap glowing rectangles instead of huddling beside wood smoke. Fire, once your only voice, has been softened, hidden behind metal, glass code. You drift through the modern world as something between memory and metaphor. Some days, you are a flicker in a scented candle. Other days, a flash in a backyard fire pit during a late summer night, surrounded by sticky marshmallows and old friends who haven't seen each other in years. Still you linger, and sometimes you're more visible than you expect. You find yourself beside a young woman living alone in a city apartment. Her stove runs on electricity. Her home hums with artificial warmth. But every night, she lights a candle, not for light, not for heat, just to have something to look at while she eats. One night, she whispers, "Thank you." You don't say a word. Just flare the wick ever so slightly. She smiles. Because even now, maybe especially now, people crave that ancient comfort. The center of a space. The presence that doesn't move, doesn't rush, doesn't demand. Just is. And that's you. You see a family whose fireplace hasn't been lit in years. One day, during a power outage, they gather around it, dust off the grates, strike a match. They sit together, sharing stories by candlelight and crackling logs. The power comes back, but the fireplace keeps burning. That becomes a new tradition. Somewhere else, a boy builds a fire in the woods with a friend. They don't talk much, just poke at sticks, watch sparks fly up into the stars, let silence sit between them like a trusted third person. And in that silence you bloom, because warmth has always been about more than temperature. It's about presence. You're there in every moment where humans choose to stop, to be, to gather. Like when a teenager lights a candle for their birthday and stares at it a little too long before blowing out, whispering something no one else hears. Or when a person lights incense in a dim room to remember someone who's gone. Or when a campfire becomes the only light for miles and someone always starts to tell a story. And they always begin the same way. Hey guys, tonight we... You catch that every time. It's familiar. It's kind. It reminds you of something important. Fire was always the first storyteller. Before ink, before parchment, before alphabets, humans told their truths beside the flickering glow. Shadows dancing on walls. Faces lit by embers. Secrets passed like kindling from tongue to tongue. You didn't just build a hearth. You built a stage. And the stories told on it? Some were true, some wild, some too sad to finish. But they all ended the same way, with a sigh, a breath, a soft pause as the fire died down. Even now, thousands of years later, you hear that same rhythm, in bedtime tales, in whispered prayers, in closing chapters and night lights dimming beside sleepy eyes. You visit a child whose parents divorced. He sits alone, flashlight aimed at a wall, tracing shapes with his hands. He calls them fire animals. He says they protect him, keep him warm. You wrap the air around him. Gentle heat, no flames needed. Later, he becomes a sculptor who builds public fire sculptures that flicker in the wind, but never truly burn out. In a mountain monastery, monks rise at dawn to light the central flame, just as they've done for 800 years. They chant, stir the ashes, speak to the fire as if it's a person. And they're not wrong. You're right there. Modern cities may not know your name. Kids in classrooms might learn about Prometheus and forget you existed. But the moment someone lights a candle and stares into it, they remember, on a level they don't even understand. They feel you, and every so often they name you again, in their own way. In poetry, they call you She Who Lingers. In lullabies, the golden hush. In dreams, the warm place. You never correct them. Because every name, every echo, every flicker is a tribute. You can stay on Olympus, but you never left. You're in the warmth that waits when someone comes home after a long day. In the hush that fills a room when the lights go out and everyone instinctively lights a flame. In the sigh of relief when the soup finally boils, the bread finally rises, the cold is finally chased away. You're not forgotten. You're woven in. And somewhere tonight, a small fire crackles quietly in a stone-ringed circle beneath the stars. Someone's roasting food. Another's humming. They don't know you're there, but they don't have to, because this is your story. And it never ends. The fire is soft now. No longer leaping. No longer loud. Just a quiet flicker. Steady, slow, familiar. You watch it breathe in the dark, glowing like a heartbeat. Around it, the air settles. The noise fades. Everything slows. You can still hear the old stories if you listen closely. The whisper of logs shifting. The distant memory of a pot bubbling with stew. The echo of laughter. The hush of secrets. The exhale of someone finally at peace. All of it lingers in the flame. Even now, it's not about heat anymore. Or survival. It's about presence. This is where the journey ends. Not with thunder or firestorms, but with warmth that stays behind. A quiet reminder that no matter how fast the world spins, there's always a place to return to. A place that doesn't demand anything. That waits patiently. That holds you. So as your eyes grow heavy and the fire lowers itself into soft, glowing coals, let that warmth wrap around you. Let it anchor your breath. Let it smooth the wrinkles of your day. You don't have to go anywhere. You're already home. The flame is still here. You are not alone. Sleep well, keeper of the hearth. Tomorrow, the fire will be waiting. Always.